Hello, welcome back to the Village Hall from Page to Stage. I am your host, Mr. Matt Ogden, and this man right here is the writer and my co-host of this podcast, Mr. Richard Sykes.
Hello.
And where are we today, Mr. Richard Sykes?
I cannot believe it. We're in Marsden.
We are!
We're in Marsden. This is amazing. This is land of my fathers. This is amazing. My grandmother and grandfather used to live in Marsden, just up the road from here. My dad was born here.
That's crazy.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So it's got a lot of personal history.
It's a full circle moment, isn't it?
But you and I have been residents pretty much of this place for a while, haven't we? Our fabulous parochial hall here.
We have indeed.
It's called St. Bart's, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was very confusing. As we were getting the tour, we were kind of asking, Al and Malk, who've kind of let us in to film this episode, not just in the Village Hall, but on the stage of the Village Hall.
Yes.
And that's your backdrop. So this is essentially what Cheeley Village Hall is going to be like, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But yeah, as we were walking around, we were asking questions about the types of classes that they have on, including the Women's Institute and the Tots after school club.
Don't forget the Morris dancing.
And the Morris dancer was when Rich blew it up into enthusiasm. Malk kept saying, he's really enthusiastic, isn't he? And I was like, it's because all of these little references that he's weaved into the musical, they are actually real things that tangibly happen here.
They are.
But yeah, the name of the church hall and whether it's a village hall or a community centre or belongs to the church, it's all contentious, isn't it?
I mean, as we're filming, the church is just there. It's over there. It's about, I would say, within 100 yards.
Yeah, it's a short walk.
It's basically what I've written. Jeffrey, our vicar, would just come through the fire doors, which have been conveniently opened for him. You can imagine the whole thing taking place here. In fact, it's pretty much set out as we've set out our stage. Well, if you look at it, we've got basically the kitchen and store cupboard have changed sides.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it maps on absolutely perfectly.
You've got your double doors, your entrance right down the front.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got your side exits here and here. We're back on the plane, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. but everything is here. You know, I didn't envisage a stage being part of the Village Hall when we did it.
Yeah,
but I mean, it would work incredibly well for things like the panto that comes into the second act too. So deliriously excited to be here in Marsden. It's got. Do you detect that sort of smell as well?
So we've talked about it before, haven't we? We talked about the 4D experience, just like we had with By George the Fish and Chips as you walked into the theatre, and we really want to get that kind of history. That mustiness.
It has. There is a must to it. There's a depth to it, and it's very difficult to quantify. It's going to be incredibly hard to replicate. I think. I think it might be.
It's the wood.
Maybe wood, maybe drapes. But how do you replicate that smell?
I think we'll just have to steal stuff. No,
yes, we'll do that. We'll do
We're
that.
not really going to steal.
But we've got the stacked chairs. We've actually got a step ladder over there, which is just behind us, which is the equivalent of what we're going to be using for the hanging baskets and things like that.
And if we have a look downstairs under the stage, which we were filming just before, you've got the old armchair that's sat propped up with a Hoover next to it. You've got the boxes with all of the crockery and china, the
right
Prosecco
next
glasses.
to the tea urn.
Yeah, and
it's
then you've got the no smoking signs. You've got the little signs about the dancers and what the rules and regulations are.
Rules and regulations are incredibly important to the musical. But the other thing that's important to the musical is the fact that something is laminated. If something is laminated, a sign is laminated, it is set in stone.
Oh, absolutely.
You shall not disobey.
Exactly.
And there's a brilliant mix on the notice board here, which has a degree of lamination. A degree of lamination. And then there are things in folio pockets, which means the laminator's buggered. But it also, and there are things that are just throwaways.
Or it's not quite as permanent.
Not quite as permanent.
You have to swap it out for next year's certificate.
That's right.
From
That's
Kirklees Council or whoever.
So it fits the brief enormously. And one thing that we want to talk about while we're actually in Marsden is do we make the musical Yorkshire?
How much do you lean into the Yorkshireness of it? Because with By George, like we kind of talked about on season 1 of the podcast, By George from Page to Stage, which you can go back and watch or listen to. But as we discussed, it inherently was Yorkshire in the sense that you made it a Yorkshire town or fictional Yorkshire village.
Yes, and there was Yorkshire dialect.
Yorkshire born and bred and the dialect and everything like that. But like you said, you could easily kind of like pick it up, plonk it down somewhere else, like in Lancashire, or maybe somewhere like a Cornish environment.
Yes.
And you could swap it out. Whereas with Chile, your references throughout the musical, they're not as inherently Yorkshire,
No,
are they?
they're far more general. In fact, if you travel up and down the country, and while I've been writing this over the last couple of years, you can see these signs, just these little country signs saying Village Hall. And myself and Maria,
There's one outside.
There
Parochial
is,
Hall, but
there
it's
is.
missing the H.
how dare they? But that kind of thing, it's filled my heart as we've been going around the country and saying, oh, Village Hall, and it to the point of madness and obsession. It's been looking at these village halls and seeing what they have in common. And they all have this great connective tissue.
Yeah.
But this one, as you said,
Yeah.
is 99 years old. Next year, this building celebrates its 100th anniversary, which is extraordinary.
Exactly, and so obviously I performed here doing Blackadder, which we referenced last year. 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And yeah, the society obviously really want to keep going, and they want to obviously get to that centenary year at the very least, and it's a really important thing to them. And I think that's also what you're getting across in Chile Village Hall, right? The fact that, you know, it's so important to all of the community of Chile, and that's why Helen in particular kind of feels that duty, that obligation to carry on Molly's legacy and become a part of the Village Hall community, doesn't she?
That's right. And there's also the character of Frances. And Frances is very important to this to this musical, in that she is the linchpin of the committee. She's that one person that if she went, she thinks it would all fall apart.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
she holds on for dear life. We're going to be interviewing Becky, who's playing Frances.
What a smooth segue.
Oh no! Thank you very much for the segue. and so we'll be interviewing her as part of the podcast. But I've got to say, I'm tremendously distracted. Every time I look at you, I see something else which is in my musical.
It's probably because in that corner is basically Al, who's kindly looking after us today,
Yes.
who acts as stage manager a lot for the shows. It's kind of his corner, and there's all sorts of bits and bobs. There's a cordless drill, there's a massive box of Nescafe Original, there's
But Matt,
all
there's a
sorts going
costume
on.
basket right there.
And there's
It's
all the
just
backdrops and everything like
Absolutely.
that. And the little tour I just went on whilst you were setting up, it's just incredible how much stuff there is, how much history is in there. That's where the mustard's coming from.
Probably,
We
yes.
need to replicate that history.
There's a pattern to it.
Yeah,
Let's put it
we'll
like
have
that.
to explore the LBT and see if we can find anything that's from its original 30-year integration.
30 years ain't going to cut it.
No, it's not. It's not going to quite have the same age to it, is it?
But if you look, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but if you look round the sides, you can see that there are radiators, there are stacked chairs, there are tables, and that we can replicate.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's the stuff that will be the mise en scène of the production company. I know, I'm getting...
How pretentious.
I'm so at my own.
I don't even know what that meant.
Good. You don't need to. So basically, the backdrop will be filtered with things like this, and the windows, and the fact that you've got constant light coming through. I mean, we've only just turned these lights on, but beforehand, you did get an incredible atmosphere walking into the dark hall with the windows providing the only light.
Floodlight.
Yeah. And there's a real atmosphere, and that's what we're going to hope to get at the top of the show. Yeah.
It's just so much character as well, isn't it? And that's what we said, the past few episodes, especially when we chatted to James, Claire, or all things technical and production.
Yes.
It's very much a case of the Village Hall feeling like a living, breathing entity. Yeah. And that's really what Marsden has, isn't it?
Yeah.
They want to make sure that obviously it's still a kind of central heartbeat of the community. Yeah. Which is a good opportunity for us to plug their next show, isn't it?
Indeed, let's do that.
So, coming up shortly after we've done the Village Hall.
About a month after.
Yeah, towards the end of October, beginning of November, they're going to be putting on a production of The Good Life.
Yes.
As seen back on the old days in the BBC.
Old days? I was part of the old days, thank you very
I
much.
wasn't. The Good Life.
Felicity Kendall, Paul Eddington, Richard Bryars, and Penelope Keith. These incredible characters they created, and a beautifully written sitcom. And it'll be on this very stage with some friends of ours.
Yeah,
Holly
exactly.
is going to be in it.
Yeah, we believe Dom as well. There's a
You
few
never
other
know.
people who'll be
There'll be
involved.
a few people involved.
if you are around Marsden, or even if you're not, come and watch it after we've done our production of Village Hall. Yeah. We'll probably have some flyers for it then as well.
I would hope so.
And yeah, come and visit this fantastic parochial hall and watch The Good Life.
Yeah.
Shall we skedaddle on through down to go have a little chat with Becky or Francis?
Let's do that.
Be right back. So, we want to talk to you a little bit about Francis and how you're approaching her, and of course, her iconic song, My Bobo and Me.
Okay, well, I fell in love with Francis when...
Oh, you were at the table read.
I was at the table read,
Was it the first one, the one I was at?
No, I think it's the second one.
The second one I wasn't at.
Yes, and so I was lucky enough to actually read Francis at the table read, and I love the fact that she's so complex. I love the fact that she is flawed. She is hiding things from everybody, most of all herself, and that makes her just an absolute delight, a challenge to play, because the whole time you kind of actually start of thinking layers upon layers upon layers of actually how is this person feeling and how much is she showing to this person and which bits are going to slip through at what point, which is fascinating and a challenge. And I just love the fact that she is somebody who is so tenaciously trying to survive and help this place that she loves to survive. And I think that's an incredible kind of character plot to actually try to act out, to see what she is willing to do to actually protect herself, but to protect this place that is her lifeline. It's fascinating, and I like seeing that kind of going through and realizing that probably there's quite a lot of people in the audience who will not like Francis, like for like the beginning of it. Certainly they will see things that she says, and when they can see, they'll be able to see when there's things where she's not being honest, and they'll just distrust her, and then how layers of that will get peeled back as it goes through. And that just, I love her so much, and I love the fact that she's somebody who is willing to actually stand on what she believes, to actually act in a way that she probably never would have imagined herself being able to do, and that there's growth to that character, not resolution necessarily.
No, I mean, you were with us for By George, and I would say that there isn't necessarily an arc with Pauline. There is a progression to that character, but there isn't a resolution.
And like we said at the end of the musical, that's technically where the story, or her next chapter of her story actually starts.
We've talked before about like just the nuances of what she wears, how she presents herself, because it's all about how people are actually seeing things, and her determination that people won't actually see those cracks. But also little things like Chilean bloom, when she about needing to pot these plants, and those plants are something that she's nurturing, and something that she of beauty that she is actually presenting to the world, and that we talked about the idea that they're almost like the children that she does not have.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And again, so therefore, all her intellectual kind of endeavors are going towards this. Everything that she has in her life actually has been kind of filtered and narrowed down into this bottleneck of the hall. That then, like literally the fact that the very first moment when she comes in and everybody's trying to come in behind her, and Neil has me like down now as just stopping everybody, and there you go, that's it. There is this flood. She is the filter, and she's trying to actually make sure that it doesn't overwhelm the hall, that it doesn't overwhelm her, and not that things don't fall to pieces. And she is prepared to do whatever she needs to do in order to actually keep this one thing that actually still brings her joy, to keep it going. And that there is a mama bear kind of like moment of like, I will fight for this.
It was the one direction that Maria, I think, has given you. And she said, and she said when we were discussing the song,
she said,
how are you going to say your first word? And I thought, oh, here we go. We're going to go through every word. Maria. But Maria said, no, the first word is wait.
Yes.
And there are loads of ways to say wait to a bunch of people. You could say, wait.
Yeah.
That's not how Maria wanted you to do it.
I was told specifically this needs to have at least 3 exclamation marks after it.
Read the punctuation.
Yeah.
It goes, wait!
That's it. And it's like, but it's literally physically just there. You will not get past me. I will push past you.
You shall not pass.
Absolutely. I get a
Gandalf moment. I mean, effectively, you have in the village hall all your children ready to, at your beck and call, willing to do your thing.
Absolutely. You know, you have that whole kind of go do this, do this, but also the points when you're kind of actually having to nurture and you're having to delegate and you're having to put some trust in people, but you're also, she has moments when she's like, what's your tone? You know, she is also the person who is kind of trying to keep it on a level as well, which is
and the rules are laminated.
Oh, favourite line. No, not my favourite line. My second favourite line. My favourite line is about Bannockburn, and just going to leave it at that. I love that. Scottish history.
We won't go into that just now.
No, but Bannockburn.
Yeah. Yes, just listen out for that.
Yeah, the laminated rules. Yeah, because every teacher knows that if you've laminated it.
We literally just said this in Marsden Parochial Hall.
Because they had on their notice board, they had a gradations of lamination.
Oh, God.
So they had, if something was very urgent, absolutely, gradations of lamination. Go to a cinema near you. If it was full laminated, set in stone.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, if it was in a docky pocket, it's interchangeable.
Yeah, but it's still protected.
If there was no lamination, no docky pocket, then you might as well just use it as bog roll.
Absolutely, just write on it.
Yes, no problem.
That's it.
It would probably say, please do not put this down the toilet.
But we found it absolutely bizarre how much of the play it is featuring in all these village halls we're visiting.
Well, I grew up with St Barnabas Parish Hall.
Yes.
So obviously that's the church that I attended growing up, and my family were heavily involved in everything to do with the hall. My dad basically decorated, tiled, basically built the stage there. And my mum used to do the choreography for the panto. Yeah. So panto rehearsal, and like I was my first panto when I was 2. Because where else was I going to go? Because everyone else was there. We have like video footage of me basically kind of doing a little tap dance and like pretty much falling asleep. So I was and yeah, my dad would paint all the scenery, and then occasionally like him and his best mate Lawrence would come in out of the wings, and they'd just do a little number, like they'd rewritten the lyrics to the floral dance, and just so it was the craziness and the wackiness, but also the fact that that's where I did Sunday school, that's where I had brownies and guides, so I was there probably more than I was anywhere else other than home. That was actually like in the church hall.
It is bizarre, isn't it? These buildings that people can just suddenly, pass by, or even councils can look at and say, well, that's a waste. and they are central figures in the
absolutely.
community.
The parties, those moments of people,
vaults,
the weddings.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We were mentioning how there's a certain pattern to these halls as well.
Yes.
The fact that they've got history and weight. And you can feel it.
And 75 leads varnish on the floor.
Absolutely, absolutely. We were wondering
tape lines, and you don't know what they're for.
Yeah. We're wondering how to recreate those sort of things for the theatre. But it's going to be a curious thing to see.
Absolutely.
It sounds like you've already thought about it as well for us. To be honest.
I mean, I've also got a daughter at home who's going into like production design, and therefore is. Absolutely, cannot wait once she's finished her A-levels to help out with this. And she's like, "Ooh, have they thought about this and considered that? And this would work well with the floor." So yes, there's been a lot of thought about it.
I'd like to know something about your approach to one of the key songs, if you don't mind. There's a song called "My Bobo and Me," which I loved writing because I knew what function it was going to fulfil. It has, for those who've not heard it, it's got the allure of a sort of country and western waltz, because there's a sort of Tennessee waltz line dance going on in the background to it. But what it really is Frances singing to her devoted husband, Bobo, who is she rises up a stepladder which is movable and therefore is dancing and is being pushed along by the.
I've got like is it bed knobs and brooms?
It could well be. It could well be.
Yeah.
In my head, I was thinking kind of like Singing in the Rain, like.
Yes, yeah.
That's better.
Yes, we'll go with that. But for me, it's a pivotal song because it comes back to bite her in the end. And can you explain your take on the first song?
I think that the first song is the rose-tinted glasses. It's everything that she wants to be.
Yeah.
And it's how she is absolutely living day by day, is the idea that this is what my husband is, this is how he feels about me, this is our marriage, this is what the world must see. And there's a line in it about, I'll make sure they see. The idea that this is all the perfection, that it's all rosy in the garden, and that she absolutely has to believe that. She has to believe that right down deep inside her, because if she doesn't believe that, everything falls to pieces. So therefore, it has to be sung with the intensity of somebody who is completely believing in it, but also the intensity of, like, in a way, it's a stand by your man kind of like thing of the generational kind of thing of this is how a wife is.
I'll tell you what the first words are. It goes, I look in his eyes, I just melt away. I feel like a sailboat adrift in a bay. My anchor, my tether, my lock and my key. I love my Bobo and me. Now,
it can be interpreted in two different
absolutely, and you'll never guess what happens as we find out that things aren't necessarily as rosy as they should be.
And when you start to realise that actually the key does change, doesn't it? It changes into a minor key, and that when you are then singing it and the different words that you have that she breaks on, that because when she realises that being anchored, being tethered,
they're not necessarily positive.
Not necessarily good things, and that
especially how minor key.
And how she is when she's drifting away. When we talked before about no career, no children, that everything is subsumed by him, everything is just dissolved into him. So therefore, what is left? What does she have?
Yeah. Who is Frances?
Who's Frances? Absolutely. Frances is at this point in time only, like, her only sense of existence is Bobo and the hall. And actually, if you take the hall away from her, then she starts to realise that she's got nothing.
We obviously spoke to Paige last week, who's going to be playing opposite you as Helen.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, this is the first time Frances is meeting Helen at the start of the musical.
Oh, it's not a fortuitous first meeting. It's awful.
So how have you found that kind of approach so far with Paige in terms of approaching the start of their fractious relationship, and then how it's going to, I guess, kind of advance the plot for the rest of the performance?
Well, firstly, you have to, in your head, divorce Helen from the loveliness and bubbliness that is Paige, because for me, for my character, even though everybody else is going to see her charm, I can't, because there's a threat there. There is something that actually I can't kind of explain to anybody else what she's going to represent, but also there is something that is fundamentally damaging to the way that she actually sees relationships, the way that she sees the world and how people can interact with each other. And therefore
there's a question of timing as well.
Yeah.
This is the wrong time to meet new people.
Yeah.
You're not here
when stuff's going
now.
wrong and everything.
Absolutely.
And how dare you actually, even though Helen has absolutely every good intention of being helpful, Frances is kind of again putting up those barriers of stop coming into this, stop asking questions.
You're intruding upon
Absolutely,
mine.
this is
Yeah.
not the right time. I mean, like, you know, we don't change things in a committee.
No.
We just
Yes,
talk about them.
we do.
Like Francis isn't necessarily, you know, kind of comfortable with the idea of change because change suggests that there's not a firm foundation.
Yeah,
there,
very much so.
actually, and the rockiness that she feels in everything at this point in time. She is like some sort of frantic person running around with like hammer and nails trying to hold up the toppling kind of tower that is.
Just trying to fix the roof when the storm
Yeah.
is here.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, Becky and I have a fondness for a certain show. In fact, there's a list of quotes from the show, which is laminated on my wall. It's called The West Wing.
Yes.
And
The best.
It is the best
Yes,
show for us.
absolutely.
It was written by Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah.
Oh, the first four series
Yeah.
were, and we have many bonds, myself and Becky.
Yes.
We essentially grew up pretty much. Well, you're younger than I am, but we did grow up effectively together.
Yeah, absolutely.
From show to show.
Yes.
And it's just an honour to have someone like this, you know. But it is doing your material, and again, we did exactly the same. And I know it's a repetition of what we did with Paige, but I brought Becky round to make sure that I knew she could sing every note that I put in front of her, to make sure that everything was in spot on the right key, so that her intonation can work. And blimey, I mean, we cried with Paige, we cried with, my word, we cried with you. I think every single song, because no matter how lovely you make My Bobo and Me that first time, if you know what's happening underneath, it is one of the saddest.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just awful.
Absolutely.
So, but there's an
But
awful lot more to the character
Do
than
you
just
think that's going to be the first sign that the audience get then of like something's not quite right? Things aren't all as they appear.
When we had the audition, I went in wearing a wedding ring.
Right.
And because to me there needed to
Real
be
commitment that to get married for the show.
what's a commitment? Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's all that. Yes, we'll tell you the story behind that.
Don't
later.
worry, don't
At
worry.
some
Off
point.
podcast.
Off podcast. But
Bonus features.
yeah, and the idea that she needed to have something that, even though there was a serenity to the voice and this just sort of passion behind her belief, that I wanted to have something that she could, to those people who were looking, could show that there was an anxiety there, and that to me that was twisting the wedding ring, and that thing of like there is an element to which I say this as like having gone through it, the idea that wedding ring becomes something that like literally, if it's taken off, your finger looks different. Like there is a narrowness to that finger that's there, and that idea of it actually, it's not something, I can't imagine her ever taking the ring off, but it is spinning, that the world is actually starting to spin. And so I think that it has to be subtle, because I think you have to buy into her passionate belief that everything's okay, everything's going to be okay, I am loved, and I am, kind of valued for who I am, and everything's going to be all right. But that underneath that, things are spinning, to me. So
when Maria and I brought Becky around to do this, to look at the music, the one thing Maria said when Becky left was, she said, "Well, we don't need to do any more, do we?" Because she told us the character.
Yeah.
I mean, there was very little we added. It was just a question of, okay, well, off you go.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it was the same with Paige, in that she's got the character in her head.
Yeah.
She isn't, whatever she says, she isn't overthinking it. She's playing it beautifully with a really lovely straight back.
That's the thing I would say about listening to both of you talk about these parts. The fact that you've kind of, even at this early stage where you've only been rehearsing for a matter of weeks, you've got that level of detail of the what's on the page, but also what's behind behind the words, behind the actual kind of interactions that those characters are having.
Yeah.
That level of detail and that depth. Okay, yeah, the audience might not get every single thing you're doing, but if it just takes one person in the audience to see that twiddling of the ring and be able to either kind of relay that to someone else or even relate to it directly themselves, that will hit in such a way that it just kind of, it makes all of that work worth it.
That for me is the joy of it being in the round.
And
that's hugely important.
More visibility.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
And now that we started to do the floor rehearsals, the actual realization that, I mean, I spent quite a large part of Thursday's rehearsal with my back to the audience, in terms that you're not at all, obviously, but that I facing the back. But you're not facing the back at all, because all those people can see you. But then we're all, the committee, clustered around like the clipboard, trying to work out what we are going to do and how we're going to actually put these things together. And that you have that element of realizing that, oh, okay, they can see me. And actually, if I turn around and point out that something's over here, and realizing you've actually got that freedom to stop kind of doing all the things that are like, oh gosh, I'm blocking this and that, I'm not blocking anything, which is great. And to actually feel incredibly real in a space, rather than the artificial fourth wall kind of.
Have you worked in the round before?
I've done 3 sides.
All right.
I've never done completely.
Mega thrust.
Yes, mega thrust. When we did, so I've never done, obviously before, by George, I've never done the world premiere before, but I did the world amateur premiere for a show called Personals, which St Andrews University, Just So Society, we ended up doing, so it's written by the same people who write Friends.
Right.
And it's
David Crane, Marcia Kaufman.
It's hilarious and very rude in some places. Yes. It was one of those shows that I kind of told my parents, it's okay, you don't have to like travel 300 miles to come and see this one, because I don't want you to hear me say those words. But it's very funny, and that was great, because actually the way it worked, and you had people kind of on these 3 sides, but you had a bit of kind of space behind that you could have things set up. But again, it made you feel like you couldn't get away from them actually being really up close to you. So that's the limit of the experience I've had.
I think it's valuable, that. But it's also something not to be intimidated by. There are some people who are terrified of it.
Yes.
Because they've only done proscenium march.
Kind of goes against their natural kind of...
someone's going to be watching the back.
Really?
When you see people doing the yoga class and they're realising that there is nowhere to hide with that.
Absolutely not. I love that first scene. I know we've only blocked scant bits of this, but And Breathe is one of my favourite numbers from the show. It's one of Frances's absolute tour de forces, where she's ordering everything around and is inspirational in what can work.
Yes, I believe.
She believes. But it's a really fast-paced number with lines coming in from everywhere, just as you would be if you were in the middle of a ridiculous committee and there was a yoga class going on around you,
and so, like, people are bringing you tea that may or may not be nice.
Yes.
But just it's the elements of suddenly seeing what Neil's bringing in as
superb,
well, and the visual humour of when we all take our first sip of the tea, and how he then is brought it back in again, and it's just like, oh, I love this, because then that's just established to everybody in the audience that anybody who's going to have that tea later on in the day is getting this,
pond water.
Yes,
it's
foul. It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I never thought we'd get pond water in the podcast.
Is it pond water, or is it actually like stew?
I don't know.
It's not Yorkshire tea then.
No.
I wouldn't.
Or it was a few years.
It was a few years ago. It's been on the radiator drying out.
Exactly. No, they're reusing those bags.
Yeah. Got the bacteria. Right, on the bacterial note, thank you so much for joining us, Becky. It's been a genuine pleasure, and can't wait to A, watch you in Village Hall, and then B, perform with you, and we'll rock you. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be great.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Back to Marsden.
Of course, we are still here at the Marsden Parochial Hall.
Indeed.
And what we would also just like to mention as well is the fact that they have their regular activities that happen, including something that's going to make you really excited.
I know.
a pantomime.
They do.
Every single year.
Yes.
In February. And it has to be in February to be in line with Ofsted, to be in line with the half-term holiday, so that the kids can be involved.
Yeah.
So what's the next pantomime they're going to be doing here?
They're doing Jack and the Beanstalk next year. So that's next February. Book it now. They'll be there for Jack and the Beanstalk right here. So I mean, Marsden obviously has a great affection for me. I think it's a beautiful place.
Oh, I
agree. Was the inspiration for Royston Vasey, the League of Gentlemen.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I didn't
In fact,
know that.
a lot of it was filmed around here, the external shots.
Oh,
the
go-
shop
oh,
and
up in
all
the-
that.
in the hills
yeah,
as well.
because it's quite isolated. I used to think
Yeah,
it was Brigadoon, because when we used to come over here as a child, you know, whatever was happening, it always used to be surrounded in a mist in my memory. Coming into Brigadoon to visit my grandparents was fantastic. So.
Do you know what? On the drive over here as well, I just love the fact that I had one of those experiences where, if you've driven over the tops of Marsden out towards the dark side, the Peak District. So I've obviously just come from Mosley.
Yeah.
And had to swerve to avoid a sheep that was just wandering around.
I'm sure
Happens
there's
so often.
Well, it's part of my DNA. In fact, I'm pretty sure a sheep is in there somewhere. Looking at this hair, someone's been, you know. I'm saying nothing. Yeah. Okay. Let's just have a chat about what happened this weekend.
This
weekend at
time of filming.
At time of filming, we sound like a current podcast. You see.
Current affairs.
Indeed.
On the Village Hall. From Page
News
State.
just coming in. I mean, in terms of the musical, I've spent the entire weekend, all of it, from Thursday evening all the way through to yesterday evening, which was Sunday, putting together the harmony lines. You know those little guide tracks that all the backing tracks are already there, and I've been putting all the melodies over for everyone and every harmony. So it has taken me 3 days to do it.
Oh, God.
No, it's great. I've loved because it's kind of been revisiting the musical for me.
Yeah, getting your head back into it.
Yeah, because I've moved past it to write the next thing.
Of course.
But now I've had to go back just in order to make sure the score was right, make sure everything was okay, and it's been a joy.
And that's why you've been saying no to a lot of stuff, isn't it, Richard?
Yes.
Something that I'm very bad at doing.
Yeah, we've noticed that.
Yeah.
What did you say yes to over the weekend, Matt?
We had some auditions yesterday for Woodhouse Musical Theatre Company's next production, which will be after the Village Hall.
Yeah, these ran over 2 consecutive Sundays because We Will Rock You is such a popular show that more people wanted to be in it than have ever wanted to be in a
over
Woodhouse
70
show.
people auditioned.
I think it was 78 in the
That's
end.
crazy, isn't it?
It is for a stage that just can't take that, so I'm
No.
sure a lot of people were turned away. But equally, it is going to be an incredible cast.
Oh, absolutely.
Headed by who?
This
2 people.
Yeah, this little couple that are tiny people.
Yeah.
One of them's me.
Yes.
The other one's Ellie.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fantastic. I think if you look at that cast list as well, maybe Rich can put this on screen right now. It's just like. It's so full of fantastic performers, people who are really fantastic singers, really incredible actors, and some amazing dancers.
It's shot through with talent.
Oh yeah,
Amazing.
it's going to be well, it's a jukebox musical of all things Queen, and Woodhouse as a society for the past few years they've been going to the Queen tribute acts at the Lawrence Batley Theatre. They're big fans of it, and I really think that we're gonna do it some justice.
It's going to be a storming show.
Oh,
Absolutely cannot wait for it, and I cannot wait to watch it.
But before that, you have to get your tickets to come and see the world premiere performance of the Village Hall. And where can they buy their tickets from, Richard?
Well, you'll be amazed to hear that the QR code is just coming up here. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
So yes, follow that QR code. That'll take you to thelbt.org, where you can buy your tickets for the Village Hall. It runs from September the 10th to September the 13th. There's a matinee for you on September the 13th. Tickets are going incredibly well.
Excellent.
I mean, it's really nice to watch.
I haven't heard David Clegg say push Tuesday once.
He hasn't needed to so far because there isn't a Tuesday.
There isn't a
performance.
Tuesday, that's why.
It starts on Wednesday and goes through to Saturday. There are lots of tickets still available, but do hurry because as we saw with By George, it does sell out. So come and find us.
And if they want to learn a little bit more about yourself and,
Yeah.
your previous and upcoming projects,
Find all that
can go.
www.richsykes.com.
Like and subscribe. You can also follow us at the Village Hall Musical on Instagram. And I promise I am going to be putting a load of the backlog of content that I've been meaning to put on since I went to Italy.
You've been busy.
There's loads of stuff going on. I mean, yeah, auditioning for Galileo was quite a big one as well. But yes, thank you very much for watching the Village Hall from Page to Stage. Until next time, goodbye for now, Mr. Richard Sykes.
Goodbye, Mr. Mazzoglin. Bye.
Bye.